Hey, it's Jessie from Squeegee Ink, and in this video I'm going to review 5 different types of squeegee handle. I'm going to judge them against certain criteria, including comfort to print with, printability, so for example whether you can push and pull with the squeegee handle, print results, which will look into blurring and buckling, ease of cleaning, ease of storing, longevity of the handle, and finally price point. Really quick reminder that we fund our YouTube channel through the sale of our merch from Blind Maggot, which is our own t-shirt brand. If you like the look of any of our shirts, and the limited edition ones in particular, you can go on blindmaggot.co.uk and get a massive £10 off when you buy our t-shirts with the discount code Squeegee at checkout. These are the 5 main t-shirt printing squeegee handles that are in review today. So as a quick overview, you've got the wooden one. These are pretty universal. They can actually be used in all sorts of printing, like paper right through to metals and t-shirts and all sorts of things, because they've got interchangeable blades. They're very easy to hold and they're cheap. The second one that you might come across is the DIY category. So this is where someone's made it out of something that they've got lying around. So in this case, it looks like they've done it out of decking, and this is kind of like something we inherited in a job lot. So I'm pretty sure a lot of studios have something like this knocking around. But I want to talk about the pros and cons of that as well. Thirdly, these are becoming very popular in t-shirt printing in particular. They come in 3 different widths, which are just the most useful for a t-shirt application. They're very lightweight, easy to clean, and their ergonomic handles make gripping them and using them on long print runs very easy. This one is the EZGrip Squeegee. You'd have seen this quite a lot around YouTube because it's so different looking, and it's got quite a lot of features that I want to discuss with you. So initially it's very hyped, but I want to talk about some of the things that we've come into contact with the squeegee and the pros and cons of why it might not be our favourite anymore. And lastly, we've got the badass squeegee. This is made from Action Engineering, who are really well known for their like palettes and different like kind of tools and things to make screen printing easier. So I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of the badass squeegee as well. Finally, you might find in your studio or home setup that you have other squeegee types. So these might not actually, they're still squeegees, that you can still technically print with them, but they haven't been made for t-shirt printers. So for example, this one, it's got a very like square-edged handle, and this is specifically made for flatbed presses where you have a metal handle there, and that brings the squeegee backwards and forth. So that hasn't really been made as an ergonomic t-shirt printing squeegee. Finally, something that I see a lot with new printers is they might even have something in their collection that rhymes with Schmeed Small, and I don't even classify it as a squeegee, and I don't have one in my studio because it's not coming in my studio. I'm going to put a little picture of it here and you might recognise it. And that's something that I would massively advise against using, especially for professional t-shirt printing. In last place we have the DIY squeegee. So this could be made out of any type of wood. So in this case it's made out of some old kind of decking. And they've done a reasonably good job, but you can see that the joints aren't very good, and they might have made it quite quickly, and there's no varnish on the handle. So I'm going to do a quick print test and demonstrate why this might not be the best choice. I just did a print test, and during that print test I'm doing a pull stroke and a push stroke, and that is to determine whether the squeegee handle limits either of those actions or techniques when you actually come to printing. I'm going to use that same consistent method of testing all the squeegee handles throughout all 5 of the squeegees that I'm on review today. The positives of making a DIY squeegee would be that you can cut it to any length that you might need for a particular job. You could choose which durometer blade that you want to have in that groove in order to print, and also they can be very easy to store because there aren't any protruding parts to the handle. The negatives of the DIY squeegee are, the most obvious one is that it's very difficult to hold. It's in quite a strange and difficult way to grip that squeegee because it's literally just a piece of board. It's quite rough on the hands. It hasn't been varnished, so that means that it's more difficult to clean and take off with the plus or link with chemicals. Another one is that you are unsure as to whether these screws are actually going right into the blade and holding it nice and tight, but also level. And lastly, the durability of it is unknown, because you might be a carpenter and you've made it really, really beautifully and flush, or you might have just put it together in a few minutes and it might last a week. When it comes to rating the DIY type of squeegee, I'm going to give comfort to print with 0 stars. It really doesn't feel good, it's not ergonomic, and it's quite rough. Printability, I'm going to give 1 star. You can technically pull and push it, but again, it's a little bit awkward in your hand. Print results, I'm going to give 1 star. There's slight buckling of the blade as it's not held in place very well. Ease of cleaning, I'm going to give 1 star. This is because it's got lots of nooks and crevices that you'd need to get the ink out of when you're cleaning. Ease of storage, I'm going to give 3 stars. That's because it's got nothing protruding out of it and it can go in any print rack. Longevity, the handle may last a long time, however it's not varnished, it is rough and it's prone to cracking as it's just wood. And finally, price point, I'm going to give 2 stars because it doesn't cost much to make, but it may not be good value in the end. In 4th place, we have the Badass Squeegee. I completely understand why they've made it, because it is better on your body to print with both hands in grips in this kind of formation, and it was one of the first ones to be given the 2 handles. It's coming from a background of automatic squeegees, so you can swap out the blade with an Allen key. But the most important thing to think about with this one is how bloody heavy it is, because I'd say it's over 2 times heavier than the traditional metal ones. So I'm going to do a print test and walk you through some of the pros and cons of the Badass Squeegee. The positives of the Badass Squeegee are going to be its construction. It's made of really strong, robust materials and it looks like it's going to last forever. If not, you need to just change the blade out a couple of times, but this handle's going nowhere. The second thing where I can see it being really useful is when you're printing white ink onto a black hoodie, for example, and you're trying to clear the mesh really consistently and you need a lot of force. This is going to help you transfer the ink onto the shirt better, because you can use the weight of your body and this weight of this very heavy squeegee in order to deposit that nice and evenly across a large area of print. The weight of it is also kind of a drawback, because there's lots of things in the screen printing technique where you might need to lift the squeegee up to do a flood, and you're like actually taking the weight of the squeegee to do the skim of the flood. And you might want to like hold the screen up with one hand, which means you'll be holding the squeegee with one hand, and that is heavy and it'll tire you out over a print run. So there are advantages, and there's applications where this would be a really great option, but a lot of the day-to-day detailed printing that we do in the studio is a little bit too cumbersome. The negatives to the Badass Squeegee, if I haven't mentioned it before, it's bloody heavy, and that doesn't help when you're flooding the screen, because you haven't really got anything to hold on to, and when you're flooding you'd probably have to do it with one hand and just kind of hope for the best, or you could prop it up against your stomach and then you'd be able to grip it with 2 hands. but that's like putting your technique off a little bit. Another thing is that it's difficult to store because normal squeegee stands, these handles get in the way of the next squeegees down, so that is really awkward. The cleaning is a little bit more difficult just because there's lots of different elements and you wouldn't be able to see ink on the handles very clearly. And lastly, it is incredibly expensive. My first car didn't cost as much as this squeegee. The ratings for the Badass Squeegee are as follows. Comfort to print with, I'm going to give 2 stars because it does actually feel quite good in your hands. Printability, I'm going to give 1 star just because it's cumbersome and flooding is difficult. Print results, I'm going to give 2 because I can get a really consistent print stroke with it and there's no warping in the squeegee, it's very, very solid. Ease of cleaning, I'm going to give 2 stars because it's physically possible and it's made of good materials. Ease of storing, I'm going to give 0 stars because it just doesn't fit with all the other squeegees and it's really awkward and it can only go in one place in my rack. Longevity, I think this is going to last longer than I am, so I'm going to give that 3 stars. Price point, I kind of have to give it a 0 because it's incredibly expensive. In third place, we've got the EZGrip Squeegee. You would have seen these everywhere because they've made them bright green. And some of the main features of this are they're incredibly lightweight and they've got a kind of removable blade which you can kind of push in and out and change. That's what's supposed to be one of the good features. And if we're honest, we were super excited to get this because it does feel nice in your hands and the print is quite cool. But we've been using it for well over a year now and our feelings have changed slightly to it. And we also kind of feel like it's not our go-to squeegee when it actually comes to picking a squeegee for our normal jobs. So I'll talk you through the pros and the cons of the EZGrip Squeegee. The pros of the EZGrip Squeegee are a little bit the fact that it's lightweight. So I mean by that, it's not putting as much force on your wrists and the handles are really cool and they feel nice in your hands. It feels like it's really formed around your grip. So that is a pro. The fact that it has a flood bar instead of having to do it one-handed is better than the Badass Squeegee. And the durability of it in terms of it being made from one piece is cool, but I really just want to snap that off and I'm trying to stop myself from pulling that little bit off. But they're the pros of the EZ Squeegee. The negatives of the EZGrip Squeegee are that I think that they've had to over-engineer it to compensate for how light it is. So what I mean by that is they've had to put in these little bars here, which do actually get in the way of your printing. They limit the size that you can actually print on your t-shirt because you can't quite get your squeegee all the way to the end of the screen. These are supposed to stop the squeegee from falling back into the ink, but the weight of a normal squeegee means that it's not flopping around everywhere. So that's kind of like them over-engineering it because of a problem that they've caused. And also, I don't know any screen printers that once they've printed their t-shirt, they're putting their squeegee down on the side. Most t-shirt printers just put it to the back of the screen. And these little nodules here are supposed to keep the blade and the ink upright and away from putting it on your tables. But again, I don't see that as actually a useful feature. I just think they're getting in the way again. And there's also this kind of twisting. So you do have to be very aware that you're putting the same even pressure on both hands. And if you have got one slightly stronger arm to the other one, you're going to see that in your prints and it's going to skew. I have one more negative, maybe two. The fact that it's not gripping this blade all the way across. Like conventionally they might even be screwed in, or they've kind of got a metal clamp that's kind of screwed in again. This is relying on tiny little nodules on the inside, and I don't feel like it's holding the squeegee blade very well. and I'm not sure why they distend that squeegee blade further than the handle as standard, because this bit is unsupported and it's going to drag behind the central bit. So initially it is exciting to use because it feels so much more natural gripping something than gripping like that with a normal squeegee, but we've just found that we don't tend to use this one in daily production because of how awkward it is. I've just thought of a couple more things. The fact that this is incredibly annoying to store in a traditional squeegee rack, because you'd have to put the arms going so that there's a little squeegee in here and then you could stack multiple squeegees. You'd either have to have all of these, or you're going to be fiddling with it like we do and have it right at the top out of the way. Another thing is that they traditionally put in, as standard, quite a soft durometer blade. That's like a soft blade here, and I find that you'd have to swap that out for a harder blade to make it useful, because it grips so little of the blade that this is buckling as you're printing. So you kind of have to compensate for that by using a harder blade that's gonna kind of like keep its rigidity when you're printing and shearing the ink through onto the shirt. So it looks cool, but there's some functionality issues that need to be addressed with it. The ratings that we're going to give the EZGrip Squeegee, it has to have a 3 for comfort because it feels really good in your hands. I'm going to give it a 1 star for printability because of the twisting and the fact that you have to be a very, very conscious printer when you're printing. I'm going to give it a 1 star for printability because people using this might print too big an image with it and it's got drag. Ease of cleaning, you can very quickly swap out these blades and clean them with a rag, and there aren't too many elements to making it too difficult to clean. So I'm going to give that a 2 star for ease of cleaning. Ease of storing, I'm going to give it a 0. If I could give it a -1 or 2, I would, because it's bloody awkward and it's a bit annoying. Longevity, I'm going to give it 2 stars because I feel like it will last a long time as long as I don't snap off one of these little legs. Price point, I'm going to give 2 stars because it's probably in line with the metal squeegee that we'd normally use, and you could technically get more use out of your blade before you had to send it away to get a new blade put in. In second place, we have the wooden traditional squeegee handle. Some things to look out for when you're buying a wooden squeegee handle is that if it's like actually sculpted towards your hand to make printing easier on your grip. Another really cool thing to look out for is that you've got regular screws of the that are holding the blade in place. Some other things about this kind of squeegee is that you're going to find them in almost every studio. You're going to find them in ones that print artwork, metal, plastic, right the way through to manual t-shirt printing because they're so useful. You can also often specify how large you want it very easily because they can just saw it down. And if I'm honest, I have used some of these and sawn them down myself and they've been fine if I've needed a very specific length of squeegee. And you can also swap the blades out for any type of blade, included rounds, V-cuts, all those kind of unusual application blades you can use in this wooden squeegee handle. Some of the benefits for the wooden handle squeegee are that it's sturdy as hell because it's a plank of solid wood. The fact that the blade can be swapped out relatively easily because it's screwed in, and you can ask for any combination of blade for lots of different applications and like different results that you're trying to go for. The fact that it's molded to your hand, so it is comfortable for very long print runs, and it's quite lightweight. Another thing is that I've just used it for probably about 10 years now, so I just know how to hold it and how to manipulate this very simple design. Another thing is that they're very easy to store in a traditional squeegee rack, and they're very cheap and affordable, and because I've kept the same handle for well over 10 years, but I've swapped the blade out as and when I needed it when it came slightly blunt from using it many times. The negatives of this squeegee are the fact that if you're using water-based inks, it's very easy to clean because it's got the varnish on and that type of thing. But if we're being honest, we did use solvent inks, which means we had to use solvents to clean it up. That removes some of the varnish, and you can see that we've got tape on here to kind of like protect our hands against the roughness of the wood from when the varnish was cleaned off accidentally. So we've still kept it because it's just a firm favourite in the studio, and it's one we go for print runs. I'd say it is comfortable to print with, but if you're ever getting into those print runs which are like excessive, like thousands of prints, I've probably switched to an even better designed squeegee that's even more comfortable in your hands for the long print runs. The ratings for the standard wooden squeegee are comfort to print with. I'm going to give 2 stars because it fits really nicely in your hand and it's light. Printability is going to be 3 stars because I can feel like I can print anything with this squeegee handle. Print results are going to be 3 because I feel like it's down to me and my printing technique rather than the blade taking anything away from my printing. Ease of cleaning, I'm going to give 1 because you might be using solvents and you might wear away the varnish. Ease of storing is 3 stars because it's super easy to put in the squeegee rack. Longevity, I'm going to give 2 stars because, well, it's lasted over 10 years and I just need to swap out the blades, which is very easy to do. Price point, I'm going to give 3 stars because it's really cheap, affordable and a good entry into screen printing manually. In first place, we've got the metal ergonomic handled squeegee handle, and this is definitely our go-to squeegee and our favourite and the one that we reach for most often when we come to print. Some really cool features are that it is very lightweight because it's basically hollow, so they haven't like made it excessively heavy. It's formed perfectly to hands, and I've got little hands, but I think lots of different people will be able to use this really nicely. It's got like these kind of like inbuilt grippy bits, and you can also swap out the blade really easily as it's got this kind of pinching mechanism on the end, and it's just sturdy as hell, and it's my favourite squeegee by far. The pros of the metal handled ergonomic squeegee are the fact that it's a really good price point in terms of like actual value for money. Longevity, this is going to last forever because it's made of metal. Thirdly, you can swap out the blade for lots of different types of blade and it's very secure in there. The printability is good, you can pull or push depending on your print technique. Other ones are that it's lightweight, so that you can flood it with one hand in the middle very easily. So this is the go-to squeegee for very long print runs because you're going to get less wear on your wrists and joints. It's got good grip already like put in there. It's easy to clean because there aren't too many components. You can store it very easily in a normal squeegee rack, and it comes in 3 different sizes to accommodate your normal most regular size prints for t-shirt printing in particular. The negatives to the metal handled ergonomic squeegee are that it's noisy. That sounds like a really weird thing to say, but I'm just going to show you because it is irritating. When you're printing and you put your squeegee back on there, normally you can't really hear the squeegee going, but then you're hearing this all day. And you can even just put it down really lightly and it's like a big bang. That's the only negative that I can come up with for the metal handled squeegee. Technically, an easy fix for that loud clanging noise would actually just to put a little bit of rubber on the back of the press. But it's been years since we've been using these and we've never got around to doing it because it's a bit of a faff and we've kind of got used to the banging. The ratings for the metal handled ergonomic squeegee are: comfort to print with has to be 3 because it's very easy on the hands and it's got a good grip and it's light. Printability, I can print, pull, do little left chests, big prints, all sorts with this type of squeegee handle. Print results has to be 3 because it's mainly down to my technique and it's not holding me back at all. Ease of cleaning has to be 3 stars because it's very easy to do. There are hardly any components, nooks and crannies on this squeegee handle. Ease of storing, it just goes in really nice and simply onto the squeegee rack. Ease of storing has 3 stars. Longevity, this is just made of metal, so it's just going to last forever. You can swap out the blades easily, so that's got 3 stars. And price point has 2 stars because there are cheaper ones available that do kind of the same job, but I'd still say it's worth the price, so I'd still say it's good value at 2 stars. There is one bonus squeegee that I need to tell you about, so I'll put that one back. It's definitely going to be in joint first place. It is the mini squeegee keychain by Squeegee and Ink. This thing is cute as hell. It's very easy to store in a pocket or even just in your hand like that. You can have it hanging from your car mirror, you could have it in your top pocket, you could have it hanging from your jeans, all sorts of things. It is sculpted to your hand for good grip, it's varnished, and that squeegee blade is a 70 durometer. So technically if you're a mouse, you could be printing your own t-shirts easily at home in your travels, and you look super cool and everyone knows that you're a screen printer. It's also got a great price point. It's the cheapest out of all of the squeegees, and in our opinion this is the best squeegee in the world. To sum up this video about the review of all these different squeegee handles, you might have noticed that they all technically printed t-shirts, so there isn't really a right and wrong squeegee to go for, but we just wanted to do a rundown of all the pros and cons that we've figured out from printing with all these different squeegees on lots of different applications, but mainly manual t-shirt printing. We've actually picked up all of our squeegees from Screen Print World in the UK, just because that's the best supplier in the UK that we go to for all of our products and consumables. And if you want to get your hands on any of these to trial out for your studio, you can use the discount code CRP5 at checkout for a discount. I hope you enjoyed this video all about squeegee handles and the pros and cons of all the different ones. Please remember that we fund the YouTube channel through the sale of our Blind Maggot merchandise, and you can grab any of our limited edition t-shirts from the blindmaggot.co.uk website, and if you add squeegee at checkout you get a massive £10 off. There are also hoodies and other really cool things on that website. You can also like and subscribe and ask any questions in the comments about squeegee handles. In first place we've got the metal ergonomic handled squeegee handle. Sorry, what do we say?
It's called the ergonomic metal handle squeegee.
Handle.
If you just stand up and look at the camera as if you were about to talk. Cool.